Good. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to talk to everybody about unlocking efficiency, transforming claims processing with generative AI. So my name is Doug Armstrong.
Good.
And I'm joined here today by Prithvi. So I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Doug Armstrong. I am the head of data science at Securian Financial, which is a life insurer based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. So have been enjoying the warm weather here. When I left on Sunday, it was 5 degrees. So this is a great change of pace. I've been at Securian for about 7 years. I joined Securian right after graduating with a PhD in computational science and statistics. I worked across various areas of the enterprise, solving various problems, from actuarial to underwriting, really all sorts of different problems. Up to about 2 years ago, took over running data science and really started to dive into and drive a lot of various new capabilities. One that we're really excited to talk about today, which is around intelligent document processing, marrying with generative AI to solve some really important problems.
Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon, everyone. Super excited to be here, and thank you for spending some time to kind of be with us in this session. I am Prithvi Mazumdar. I am a technology fellow in Deloitte. I am the lead at the intersection of insurance and technology. So that's me, all in all, right? Similar to Doug, I've been in the space, in the insurance space for a long time, 20 plus years. Been in this industry, I've seen the changes since the day one of data and analytics space, grown in the analytics, gotten into the traditional machine learning models of the world, and now with the advent of Gen AI, trying to help improvise some of the business process along with teams like Doug, right? So that's what we want to try and share today as we go forward, right? But I honestly believe, right, like this is a true and amazing success story which we are trying to share with you all. This has gone live for some time. We've seen how good it is and how it has changed the game all over. I'd like Doug to kind of go over this in general, and it's a true story of collaboration and innovativeness as every step of the way.
Yeah, so today we really want to focus more on that story side, the human sides, really what it took to identify, understand, and solve the problem and develop the solution. So taking a little bit more of that human side of the problem solving. So we're going to go through that today. First, understanding what's the problem we're trying to solve, what particular product. So if you're not familiar with life insurance, you get to learn a little bit about life insurance and a particular product called hospital indemnity. Then we'll go through how we married that up with a process that's AI supported, going through the technology and some of the considerations when we chose certain services and how to implement them. And then what are the benefits, of course, going through this exercise? What did we learn? What to do? How is it impacting? Where, from an industry perspective, is this really impacting?
Yeah. Just to top it off at the tail end, right? Like we'll like to try and simulate an environment which looks and feels like the real one. It's not the real one. I just have to caution that. But it'll give you an insider preview of how this process, in terms of a demo, will look like. Again, not necessarily as a claims adjuster as such, but a little bit on partly a technologist, partly the claims adjuster. You will see both the sides of the personas coming together to see in this demo. So that's at the tail end of this journey.
Yeah. And then, of course, always where are we going next with it, and how are we thinking about that long term. So we hope to get through all of that. And then at the end of it, we're getting some Q&A as well. So if you have questions, we're looking forward to hearing them and answering them. So let's jump right into the challenge, the problem that we had before us. So claims adjudication, we'll get into, is a very manual process. And at Securian Financial, with our enterprise business services division, we offer a lot of products for our groups, our employers. So if you, as an employee, receive benefits through your employer, you may see something like this available. Now, quick show of hands here. Who is in the life insurance industry? All right, who is familiar with supplemental health insurance? All right, and of those supplemental health products, who's familiar with hospital indemnity? All right, about what I expected, about 50% here. So hospital indemnity insurance is one of several supplemental health products. There's other ones called accident insurance and critical illness, and those were considered initially. The very first step towards solving this problem of, hey, how can we improve and long-term possibly automate some of the claims process was first understanding the products and how the claims process worked. So we had a deep dive into each of these products, and we ended up with hospital insurance, the hospital indemnity insurance. And the main reason behind starting with hospital indemnity, especially since we started this journey 18 months ago or so, was the simplicity of it. Hospital indemnity is very simple benefit for you as a potential claimant. If you have to stay in a hospital for more than 18 hours for a qualifying claim or reason, you would submit a claim and you would be paid a basic benefit. You get $500 for the first day that you're in the hospital and $200 per day after up to however many days are in the specific contract. Very simple. You use this, of course, when you stay in the hospital. It's a supplemental health product. And the how we go around adjudicating this is really where the simplicity landed. Through digging, we found out that really it's only 6, 7, a few data points that you actually need to collect in order to properly adjudicate it. And they're fixed. We expect those data points to be there every single time, unlike other products where it's a bit more variable. So this is how we selected this particular one, starting with something simple that would be a really complex kind of AI journey for first time going in. So once we selected that product, this is where the fun really began. Through various partnerships between data science and Deloitte and other internal teams at Securian, in particular business SMEs who have years of experience and they know how to adjudicate the claims, we really broke down the claims process flow. And we have the high level here behind us. We're going to start the journey with putting yourself in the shoes of a claimant. You've been to the hospital for some reason, and you need to now submit a claim. The way you would do that is you would go out to Securian's website, find the claims portal, and you would begin your claim submission process. You'll go through, you'll fill out a bunch of information on the web portal, your name, when you were hospitalized, when were you discharged, why were you in there, in your own words. And then you're asked to just upload documents. We don't ask specifically to find, hey, we need this discharge summary or we need this explanation of benefits. Whatever documents you got from the hospital, we want them. We'll figure out where all the data is within them. And then you'll go through, we'll convert all of that into specific images, and then that will be pushed up to a storage on the cloud for the examiner to then pull down when they begin their process. Now, once you've submitted that behind the scenes, this is when the claims adjuster and the adjudication process begins. The first thing that, of course, has to happen is authentication of that member. That's an entire process that we did not need to involve for the AI for our process. But once you've been authenticated, this is where the process really starts to kick off, where all the manual touch points of document review and data capture begins. So the first step, of course, is checking for document completeness, just making sure the proper documents were uploaded, they have all the data within them, and they come from the system that you expect to see them come from. An examiner would then start to review every single page in order to capture and extract particular pieces of data. What is the name? Where was the hospital? Or what was the hospital system? Where, when were they hospitalized? What were the medical reasons and coding for that hospitalization? This is a manual process. On average, maybe 7 to 12 pages to review. Sometimes, several dozen or even over 100 pages to review. So you can have a wide amount of time. Once all that data has been captured and extracted, The processor then needs to now compare pieces of information between the claimant statement and the actual medical evidence and apply that against a certain set of rules in order to determine, was this there for a proper amount of time? Is this a qualifying reason? And other pieces. It's just another step that is done manually. And finally, after you've completed all of that, assuming that all those rules are, check, they're great, then that decision to approve the claim will go through and a payment will be issued. Today, this doesn't take a whole lot of time, but of course, this is really a first step towards that broader journey of bringing these capabilities into the claims adjudication process.
Yeah. Doug, the simplicity and the fluency with which you explain the process is amazing. Guess what? When I walked in the door with Doug, I was not very familiar with the process as to what was going on within security. So that's the beauty of collaboration begins, right? It began because we had to kind of sit down with the team, try to break down the process, nuts and bolts of it, in separate silos so that it becomes easy to digest for us to kind of do the next steps as we go forward. That is very, very important. And some of the steps, right, like the document completeness check, not necessarily within security, and I'm just giving some examples from the industry perspective as well. You upload a picture, sometimes you don't upload the right document, you might upload the picture of your Ferrari which you have, right? And so all said and done, that's what you end up with, right? But the plight of the person on the other end of the table is extremely painful because he or she is expecting the right set of documents to be uploaded. It doesn't happen in reality. So those are some of the nice tidbit stories which you see, the pain points you encounter, and that's the kind of the efficiencies which we wanted to try and bring together so that the team who is on the ground doing this thing day in and day out will not have to kind of go through those painful cycles.
Yeah, in spirit of collaboration, I didn't know all of this either when we first started, but those partnerships that you have within the business as you start to dive into these large processes are important to make sure that you're bringing your customers along, your stakeholders along for the journey, because they have all the information that you need to understand in order to more deeply understand the challenge and then also understand how to marry and select the correct technology to help solve those specific problems, which is the next step that we had. Yep. Once we understand the process, we are able to begin documenting and understanding what are the key challenges that we are going to have to solve for this process. Now, we went through the business process, and we know that there's going to be challenges with data. We know there are going to be technical challenges, but I want to begin with actually understanding what are the challenges that we're going to face with data security and privacy. At Secure and Financial, we want to make sure that that is the foundation to everything that we do. We build our data science and our machine learning on top of those foundations of privacy and security for our customers' sake. Partnering with AWS, if you watched the keynote this morning, security is paramount in everything that AWS does as a cloud provider. So we have some assurance by partnering with AWS. We can rely on a lot of the best practices and understand that a lot of those services are also secure as well. But we also have partnerships internally with cybersecurity, with your data management, your governance, your market governance as well, to make sure everybody's aligned on how these services work and what you're doing to ensure that we can protect the sensitive data from any possible exposure, and the process is clear at all the regulatory levels that you'd expect it to be working in the insurance industry.
Absolutely. Without doubt, right, like that was the bedrock, not the bedrock, but
yeah.
the bedrock of what we wanted to make sure that get started with, actually. No compromise on security, and I think that was the right fundamentals with which we started.
Yeah, so once that hurdle had been cleared and that was there, this is where we start to really build, and it gets really exciting fast. So when I worked as a data scientist, I love to just dig into the data and start to understand it and dig through it. So some of the characteristics as we start to dig in start to really pop out to us in the workflow. What are the challenges the examiners see day to day? Well, firstly, on that step, when we ask our customers, upload the documents that you have, data is going to be captured in all sorts of random formats. The number one tool that an individual has to take a picture of a document is actually their phone. And they will just take a picture on a table. So you have all sorts of various interpretations of picture taking, we'll say. You have tilt, you have panning, you've got rotation. So that window is going to be a challenge in and of itself that we had to go through. Second, data is going to have different context depending on the document. If you've ever worked with medical data from various hospital systems before, not every provider will format it in the same way or provide data in a similar fashion. And when you're searching for certain types of data, and there's one particular example we'll share a little bit later, it's important that the context and what's around some of the keywords you're searching for is going to drive accuracy or your false positives as well. Finally, the way documents are scanned and converted to images, as I mentioned, the phone is the most popular technique that our customers have for scanning pictures in. When they come in, they tend to stay in that manner. So we need to solve how do we make this consistent? How do we standardize these documents, not only for us, but we also found out for the examiners who still need to review these documents occasionally. And then finally, documents have the potential to be in different languages as well. So having a solution that could account for that when it comes up is just like a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, no, spot on. And just keep in mind, right, like this all started 2 years back, right? Like at least 2 years back, and GenAI was in its infancy in my mind at that point. Machine learning was the tool of choice in many, many ways at many points in time. The challenge over there, especially in this kind of scenarios, every hospital in this case will have its own format. So you've got to kind of keep training your models in that way, which was not practical in many ways, right? Even if you get some level of efficiencies, it is to a certain level, not beyond 10, 20%, 30% max, right? The scale which we were actually honestly looking for is like be adaptive, be able to kind of align with what the documents can be. Doesn't matter which format it is, how exactly it drops in our bucket. We should be able to kind of go through that process. So that was the genesis of how we started exploring outside of the machine learning world, try to get to that place. Just to add on to what, and again, based on what I've learned from this experience, the documents would come in very cryptic formats, like Doug mentioned, right? Without giving the description of the reason why you were in the hospital, you might get just a CPT code or whatever that code is, right? Like, and you've got to kind of figure it out based on a claimant statement, which can be a very simple, plain English, and you've got to start comparing that. On top of it, if the language is different, it takes it to the next level. So all those adaptability and flexibility which we had to kind of bring it together, that is something which we were looking for in the solution as we were moving forward on that front. So that's how it got started.
Yeah. So now that we've gone through the business flow, maybe a few folks here are ready to start some work as a claims adjudicator, and a little bit of the technology and the challenge that we're faced with. This is where we started to, especially partner here with Deloitte and our internal experts. How did we get and select the specific technology to address these challenges?
Sure. So again, a note on the top, as you can see, it was done 12 months back. And again, I'm not going to drain it out completely, but you saw how we started off with dividing or breaking down the business process into small pieces. At this stage, what we did with Doug and team, right, like, and kudos to the team, we actually derived all the core capabilities which we will need to kind of drive this process through and through, right? Again, just plain vanilla capabilities as to what can be done or cannot be done. So 4 major components over here, which we wanted to kind of go through. The ingestion comes first. Now, ingestion was never a problem, at least on this side of the story. It is all microservices based, API based, so we were able to kind of leverage whatever was there, nothing new. so we could exist, meaning use all the existing stack. No issues with that. When it came to text extraction, again, at that point in time, we used textract and leveraged the extraction process, made sure whatever was there, it is, meaning we are able to extract in terms of English. It might be jumbled up, not a problem. You will see some of those things in the demo as well. That was the second important thing which we did. So that's, once you've gone past that, right, from there on, this is where the adaptability and the flexibility which we were looking for all along comes in. How do we derive the insights from this particular jumbled up text, so to say? What do I need? As Doug alluded in the beginning of this presentation, right, like the business process demands certain key pieces of information to start comparing things, right? If you think about it, you are searching for those key pieces of information across the document. Now, the jumbled up text has to be searched through, figured out, and we have to search for the exact things so that the business decision can be made. So this was the most important part where we used the large language models at that point in time and extracted whatever we wanted. From there on, once we derived all those information, we applied the appropriate rules, the intelligence behind it as to how do we help the claims adjuster making a preemptive decision saying, is this claim certified to be approved or not to be rejected. But again, that's how the technology journey from a capability perspective started. So that's the technology process. Then the next stage, what we would like to try and do was, you saw the business process broken down into pieces. You have the technology capability. How do we marry both of those things together? So the next stage is when we started to bring things together, that now we know the business process, we have the technology capabilities. This is the first step where we started to bring things together. And this is how the process looked like. I'll take up few. Doug, feel free to share any examples as well. The ingestion we talked about. We've had that, not a problem. Extracting the data was through textract. That was also done pretty well from both sides, both the claimant summary and the hospital discharge summary, not a problem. What the team, I have to give kudos to the team as to what they've done together. As Doug was talking about earlier, the image can be in different shapes and forms. And nobody expects it to be fully aligned in a centered way and whatnot. Things are tilted, things are twisted, and all of that. So the team did an amazing job of pre-processing certain, running through pre-processing scripts, which enabled and improved the accuracy of the information which was extracted over there. So those were some of the things which were, please feel free to share more if you have.
We're actually able to then find later kind of one of the upstream teams that ran that. We were able to work with them to get that into a pipeline. So we actually didn't have to worry so much about that. But that comes back to that communication, collaboration, and making sure you're including everybody across the enterprise end to end for these processes. But yeah, no, a large part of this, of course, was building this on an AWS platform, utilizing as much as possible the various AWS services available to us. Many of them are not new, but we're newer to the cloud and leveraging them. So this is an exciting opportunity to start working with these in order to solve this problem. We found, and we're very happy, that by leveraging these, and a lot of them really out of the box, some fine tuning here or there, we have a very reasonable accuracy, very, very above what our stakeholders were looking for. So that was that first thing. Identifying and solving for and fixing in much of a production manner, especially out of our process, the factors that influence the quality. That was a great learning. Not only did that impact the accuracy for our process that we built, but also kind of a quality of life for the examiners who still are required to quickly look through these documents and not having to flip your monitor or kind of strain your neck a little bit. It improved that process and experience as well. So solving additional things on the side. But What we're most excited about is this third one, is for this process, when we found that we could really start to accurately match these data together at a fairly high rate as well. And so as we go and continue to monitor and utilize this surface, this is a point, a launching point to start to measure and possibly think about triaging simple from complex claims, but also to begin the discussion of, hey, where are there possibilities to automate that entire claims process through decision? Yep. A lot of discussion around that still, but being the simple nature that it is, having it about 6 months into production at this point, we're really happy with what we're seeing. Now, the large consideration with this, though, with the AI, especially to date, as it's still a lot new, and you might be leveraging it, is still to maintain a human in the loop.
Yep.
There's still the rules we have to use, but we can leverage the AI to triage claims. But right now, the most important part of this was that human in the loop. So when we combine and create basically a summary of the data, we present that back to the claims adjudicator. They still will go and check that, but they know now what to look for, where to look on the documents as well. So it does expedite that review process, and they know if it's going to be an easy one or a little bit more of a complex one. And then finally, making sure when we build this technology out, as much as we can, make it a repeatable and reusable process as well. We've made some learnings in those areas to figure out how do we keep doing this as quickly as possible. But we do want to at least have as much of that framework supporting this process to be able to continue extending it to other areas of the enterprise as well.
Yeah, and these last 2 points are super important, the 4 and 5, right? Like where human in the loop is a significant factor, where the validation, the assessment from a business process perspective was very, very important. This was from the get-go, no compromise on that, and that actually was a very, very good decision, which resulted in greater amount of confidence in the business adoption of this whole user story. So
yeah, I mean that comes back to playing off of these other areas. When we have discussions in the future of, hey, where can we potentially make this even faster or automate? Having that experience with the examiners of how this is working, where they expect, we can lean on to them and them as the experts of where can we start to make some of these decisions. So in keeping them in the whole process, pays us a ton of dividends.
Yeah, and the last one, right, like the repeatable and reusable one is also very important, because knowing the pipeline of activity which are coming down the line, I think that was very, very critical to kind of keep that modular and repeatable, so that we can use the same capabilities which we have done once across multiple times. And the pace of innovation is amazing, to say the least. We should be able to replace each one of these modular components in its modular nature with the newer technology stack. Testing becomes easier, the whole adoption becomes much easier. So that was the fundamental design of how we kind of structured this one up from there on.
So when we went through all of that, Prithvi, how do you think about these processes in the industry?
Yeah, so I'll get started with the industry perspective on the capabilities which we are seeing across multiple clients, and we are trying to share that. Now, the document check, completeness check, this is a very annoying problem, not a technically challenging problem, but it's a very annoying problem for the folks on the other side of the table to try and understand, hey, is it the right time for me to kind of go and start assessing the claim, right? That has significantly reduced over a period of time with all these technologies coming together, much less than 5 minutes, because it's all done in a very automated way and very methodical ways of doing things. We've been able to kind of extract all the information exactly in the same manner. It's an API call away very, very quickly in a matter of minutes, if not less than that. The number of claims, it's subjective, I would say. We've kind of projected those. Again, the technology stack differs. The scalability is there, so we've tried pushing it out as well. We've done performance testing on many other things. Looks pretty good. it can scale pretty nicely based on the usage. It comes across over there. And not only here in Securint, but other places as well, we have seen the customer satisfaction coming out of this entire process is significantly high, considering if we keep all the business partners in the loop, making sure they are part and parcel of the game and not necessarily getting thrown at, right, like this new process. So that's what our experience has been. But Doug, I know not that we can share anything and everything from Securint side, but please share if you can whatever can be shared with the group.
Yeah. So this has been in production at Securint for about 5-ish months now. We're very careful when we roll this out to recommend that we give the examiners time. This is kind of an industrial process change. If you've studied any of that with your experimental design and Stats 101, you know that you don't want to measure that impact right away. The metrics may be biased from it. So we're actually going to be doing official measurements against our baseline here very soon. Now, while we can't share all of those hard numbers, some of the stories that we've heard from our examiners to date are probably the most exciting, the impactful for me. My favorite one that I've heard, and it was recently, was that our examiners are now disappointed when they don't see a summary come on the screen of, from this process. And they know they're going to have to go dig through and do the old school way. So just hearing that story that they're adopting it and they're excited to leverage this technology in their process, that's pretty great to me. And hearing and understand that, it gets us really excited for really the what's next for us. We want to continue to leverage these technologies and capabilities so that we can keep innovating. Because ultimately, if we innovate and we make this process better, it's our customers who need us the most in their moment of need, whether that's from a hospital stay or an accident or from critical illness. We can deliver and pay them that much faster. And that is the most exciting part about all of this, is that our customers benefit the most.
Yeah, that's a consistent story we keep hearing from several other customers as well. Doug, if not for anything else, I'll switch over to the demo. What we've done, right, like is a simulation of what the process would look like. What are the different components involved in this entire business process? Again, it's a makeshift arrangement for this group, so I'll just state it there. I'll pause the video. It's a video recording. It goes through the details of what happens behind the scene and how exactly it can be modulated thereafter, right? So I'll get started with this thing. Okay, so what you're going to see is a business process where there are two types of documents which are getting uploaded, right? On the left-hand side, you're seeing the claimant statement getting uploaded, and on the right-hand side, the supporting hospital discharge summary is there. Now, I'll pause it here for a second, right? And again, these are all redacted and sample data in general. But what happens, this is a simulation, just to give you a sense that there are two different distinct set of documents coming in. You do not have to upload it. If you try to do a straight through processing of sorts, it goes through behind the scenes. But this is just a simulation of what is going on, how exactly this process is going to look like if you had the visibility to the behind the scenes activity. So now you get to see all the pages of the document side by side. If I'm a claims adjuster, I would love to see these two next to each other. Now, the first and foremost thing, verifying the membership information, right? Say, for example, me and my wife, right? Like I might be, my wife might be the primary on this insurance, and I might be secondary. So again, make a call. It's a simple API call. Get all the information. Get all the benefits related information. Keep it ready for the claims adjuster, dispense it out saying, okay, these all claims have been done. These are all simple, natural health checks which you do before you get started. Once this is there, right, like once all the basic checks and balances are done, you would actually go draw out all the raw text from these two documents. And for that, you would see on the right-hand side, we go click that, and it starts extracting that information. Now, the left-hand side of the document, I'll pause it for a second again. The left-hand side of the document comes from a web form. So it's a pretty structured environment where it's coming in from, right? So you would see a very simple JSON structure coming through, very easy to kind of read through, pretty standard. On the right-hand side, on the contrary, it's a jumbled up text, as I was talking about during the whole process, right? Now, from here, you want to try to connect to the LLMs and ask these prompts. And we've registered all these prompts one by one so that it makes it simple for everyone to understand as to what's going on behind the scene. Again, this is a preview of behind the scenes exposure of what's going on, and that. These are the prompts which are being asked to the LLMs, and we get a response. On the right-hand side, you would see some of these exclusion criteria. Say, for example, if there is an alcohol usage, it gets denied, gets rejected. These are all exclusion criteria and conditions which comes through, right? So you have to kind of not only extract that information which you are looking for, but also apply all these exclusion rules and see what happens. So now that we have all this listed out, now let's go and try to see what the LLM model is coming back. Now, I'll pause it here for a second again. On the left-hand side, you see the data which is getting extracted from the claimant statement. And in the middle of this page, you see the discharge summary related information which is coming up. Great. And on the right-hand side, it does a simple check saying, is the left-hand side equal to the right-hand side? It does for most of it, but except for one, right? Because it finds an exclusion over there, and hence it says it's a substance abuse. That's an exclusion, and hence recommends this claim should be rejected. Now, the fun part here is the claims adjuster has the full discretion on understanding how this whole thing comes together. And now we can actually, it gets annotated where exactly this information resides in each one of these documents, so you get a very clear sense of what is going on over here. So that said, now the claims adjuster understands that there might be a little bit of a problem that the AI model is not responding properly because it was not a substance abuse, but it was a warning given to the patient or the claimant saying, if you, it's a possibility of a substance abuse or something of that type, right? So the claims adjuster now has the capability to kind of educate the AI model. This is where human in the loop comes into picture, and how the feedback from the claims adjuster goes back to the model so that the model gets trained behind the scenes, and it learns that next time it finds something similar, not to do the same mistake, right? That's how you educate. Again, if you tell the claims adjuster that, hey, you're training the model, he or she would go nuts because they would not be very familiar with how to kind of train a model. But this is how simplistically we were trying to incorporate all the feedback from a business process perspective, but it behind the scenes does the magic. So what the claims adjuster is doing here is going to this particular point and dropping it off, saying, overriding the assessment done by the AI model and telling it to kind of compare it again. So now the model comes clean and says, okay, this is all good. It's all done on both sides, right? So that's all done. So it's all set for going ahead with the claims, the matching from both the documents, ready for it to be submission for the claim. Now, let's look at very interesting feature. And this is a feature which has been asked several times by several clients. Now, the first dimension of this thing is, I want to know what has gone past with this particular claimant in the history. So it's a very simple query. Go back into the history of all the claims associated with that particular claimant, get it. No brainer. That's not the fun part. The fun part is, if I'm a rookie claims adjuster, I would like to see what the organization has done with similar claims. Can I see how the claims were adjudicated for a claim which had similar features, similar content, and so on and so forth, right? So now all the similar claims are getting popped out over here. The top 5 claims are getting popped out. The claims adjuster can now go back to the individual claims in the history and see what transpired. They can see the left-hand side of the document, right-hand side of the document, annotated in history what was done and how did they arrive to that conclusion. This feature is amazing for people to kind of come at par with the different types of decision-making process over there. Now, sorry. So that feature, which I just now showed, of the similar claims, has been requested by several clients, and I've seen that working like a charm, not only in this particular line of business, but every other area. And what that does is it helps train a rookie underwriter, rookie claims adjuster to kind of come up to speed and give their assessment. Now, the fun part here is when all the claims assessment is done, now the adjuster is prompted with all the right information to kind of submit this claim and approve the claim, and the communication associated with that the claim is also published from here on, right? So the entire email with all the content, the justification, everything is packaged, prepackaged in an email, send it out, ready to ship, and you just click a button and it goes. Helps the claims adjuster reduce their overhead on doing manual activity significantly. That's a sneak peek at what can go through in a Gen AI supported claims adjudication process, in this case, a group insurance claim for hospital indemnity.
Yep. And not everything there was what we have at Securian, but
it's a simulation.
Yeah. Want
Of
to
sorts.
make sure that's understood.
Yeah. Cool. One last very, very important point. I'd like to kind of go to the next slide. Sorry. Disclosure from both sides.
Yep.
Yeah. We all had the same reaction, but we had to kind of go through that. But nonetheless, that's our experience. An amazing collaboration with Doug and team. Kudos to the team to get this process across into production. It has been live for some time. Doug, anything else you want to add?
No, not too much. Not that any more than I've said already. I do look forward to some of the Q&A from our audience. But this really has been a great learning experience. Kind of jump-started our journey, leveraging various pieces of AI, how we can apply it to various problems that face a life insurer. And also, a little bit has been a personal journey for me. When I worked as a data scientist, about every one in 5 problems I was asked to tackle, I couldn't quite complete tackle because the data was locked away somewhere in a piece of paper. So now that I know that my team and others have these capabilities, we can start solving those problems. So it's been really exciting to see that entire process go through. But,
sure.
Yeah, no, thank you all for attending here today. We do want to